Thank you. Oh, thank you, Olivia, so much. That was like a Father's Day card. I'm really proud, Liv, of the work that you've done with Points for Patriots. A little background on PFP and why it's so near and dear to our hearts. Olivia touched on this, but my dad is a disabled veteran. And yes, I did grow up with a father who suffered from some serious PTSD. My sister and I, and my mom for that matter, we grew up in a household that was definitely filled with a lot of turmoil and angst, and a real feeling of being alone in the journey of life. And my father especially always felt somewhat abandoned by the people and the country because he didn't have a support system outside of our family, and we weren't equipped to be his support system. As you all know, veterans face tremendous challenges when they leave the military. The suicide rates are ridiculously high, and it's really sad. When they're integrating back into civilian life, and their spouses also experience all of this stress and pressure, and it's really compounded upon them. So when I met Mike Schumer through Bob, and we learned about the things that he was doing for veterans to bridge that divide, we were immediately all in. And a lot of it has to do with Mikey, his personality, his perseverance, his work ethic, the way he networks, the way he just exudes enthusiasm about this cause. And it's worth mentioning also that my son Michael who's not with us tonight, he's in Texas. He had an exam today, but he also, like Olivia, spent 4 or 5 years very actively with Points for Patriots. So it's really a family thing, and my dad is still with us, and he's really proud of what Mikey's doing and what his grandchildren are doing to help the cause of veterans and their families. Mikey, I want to thank you, because you've thanked everyone, and I want to thank you and congratulate you on everything that you've done on behalf of veterans and their families, and for the students that volunteer in Points for Patriots. You know, it's not just the veterans' lives that you're impacting, it's the children that are working with PFP and growing up together, and ultimately, standing on stage here tonight. It's just really, you should feel really great about that. And you've dedicated your life now to this as a professional. I think it was Chicago, USC, right? Yeah. And this is the path that Mike has chosen. And I'm really appreciative. And if you all join me in a round of applause for Mike. And now on to our honoree. So, Mr. Bob Litwin. Many of you are here tonight because Bob has touched your lives in a very meaningful, impactful, and special way. I'm one of those people, and so are my kids. I first met Bob in 2007 through Eric Wasserman. Where's the Was? There he is. Yeah. And Was called me, and we were both like 4 a.m. guys, and 8 screens, and just like way too intense for our own good. And Was called me and said, "Dude, I'm meditating at noon every day. We got this new guy, Bob. He's got me meditating in Jay's office every day at noon." I was like, if you're actually leaving the desk for more than 3 minutes to use the bathroom, I have to meet this guy. And I did. And my life has been, materially different and better since I met Bob. Bob, as you all probably know, is a champion tennis player. He is one of the foremost coaches in the world, actually. I think that's a fair statement. And he's the most giving and caring friend that a human being could ever ask for. And I consider myself extremely fortunate to count him as one of my closest friends. Bob's mantra of continuous improvement, effortless effort, And living the best story of your life has given me the opportunity to really separate the signal from the noise and focus on the things that matter. Bob's been there for me through literally every challenge, but also for all the good stuff too. And there's not one major decision that I've made in my life in the past, I guess it's now 18 or 19 years, where I didn't consult Bob. But I think more importantly, the things that I've learned from Bob affect all the small decisions that we make every day. You know, the 10 or 20 or 30 of those small decisions that add up, and I think amount to a whole lot more than those quote-unquote big decisions. Bob's New York Times bestseller, Live the Best Story of Your Life, I believe is required reading for anyone that is interested in making positive and sustainable change in their lives. And I'm proud to say I was referenced in the book twice. Bob really needed a case study for someone who's really had some problems. So he used me. I think I remain nameless in the book though, but I was happy to contribute my use case. The concept of change is one that Bob has mastered and has helped so many people in this room work on successfully. Societally, and Bob and I talk about this a lot, change is like something that we've all kind of built up in our heads to be like very daunting, very scary, laborious. And when I met Bob, he just said, change is easy. You just kind of do it. And easier said than done, but with his approach and his methodologies, it actually did come easy. So I've learned from Bob that change can actually be easy, and embracing that as a core concept in my life has made my life more fun and robust and exciting. Knowing that you can change something if you choose to is very empowering, and Bob taught me that. Bob's an incredible mentor to me and to many others, a friend, a husband, a father, a grandfather, and at 77, he wakes up every day thinking about how he can be better in the categories of his life that he decides are important. And while Bob has contributed to many of our personal, emotional, and professional growth over the past many decades, I continue to be inspired by him literally on a daily basis. Just watching him navigate his own life and his journey, and keeping track of where he always is, which is 90% of the game. So I feel like I've had a front row seat to living of the best story by Bob himself, and I'm incredibly grateful and humbled to call him one of my closest friends, and so excited to introduce him as our honoree. And with that, I want to bring Allie up to the stage, and thank you everyone for coming.
Without further ado, the Three Pillars Award, Mr. Bob Litwin.
Well, it's pretty hard to follow Mike Raleigh. Excuse me. It's funny, somebody wrote the foreword to my book before it was published. I asked somebody really special who's on a benefit committee to write the foreword. He wrote this foreword, and he sends it to me. He says, "How's this?" And I said to him, "I don't even need to publish a book now." Really, it's like what you said just made my life, and really, like, that was amazing, and thank you so much for that. And, it's hard, it's challenging for me to have that perspective for myself. So I'll have to process that, I think. I think that that's where I am. So, well, I'm very, very grateful. I'm very, very honored, really. And when Mike and Mikey came to me and said, oh, we've decided we're going to do a fundraiser, and you are going to be the honoree. I was like, what? Wait. It's like, I don't really think that I deserve that. And then I had a conversation with Mike where he explained to me what I have done to help this organization. So they kind of shot me down and said, you're doing this. You're the so I really want to thank all of you for being here. It's such a great turnout, and you know, some people have said, where are all these people from? I said, like, well, there's Mike, there's Mikey, you know, and there's me, I guess. And you know, all of you are here, I guess, for one of the three of us, or you might randomly have heard about Points for Patriots, but I don't think our marketing is that good yet. People are hearing about it. So, you know, really, thank you all for being here. And I want to thank the ambassadors who are here, the veteran mentors, the high school patriots. They're all doing really, really good work. It's really cool that these young people are learning about philanthropy and about the veterans and about things that really do matter, and they're not necessarily at home playing, you know, video games. And, I mean, they might be doing that too, but they're doing this as well. And they really are making a difference in our world right here, and hopefully over the years in the world in a really big way. And Mikey, you're just amazing, you're great, I love you so much, and I really am, I'm so glad that we met. What was it, like 12, 15 years ago? Someday, some of you will hear the story about how Mike and I met and what the result of that first meeting was. So, while preparing for tonight, you know, what am I going to talk about? Usually when I do a talk, it's usually about live the best story of your life and how that is a model and how people can use it in order to grow and to change and to be better. And it's pretty straightforward. I mean, it's kind of like, hey, if you want to work with me, this is what I do. But I really didn't think that that would be appropriate for tonight to do a course in Live the Best Story of Your Life. But I got some feedback. I asked a few people, and you know, people said like, yeah, you know, it'd be interesting to know how you got here. And I thought like, well, what does that even mean? What is here? And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I do know what here is. Where am I at this point in my life? Here? I'm living the best stories of my life. And I mean, that phrase only came to me 10 years ago when I was writing a book and I was struggling to find a title. Little did I know that I was writing a title for myself. So I really didn't know for the longest time that my life journey was going in that direction. I just was waiting for my real life to begin. While teaching tennis, which I did for well over 30 years, always gnawing at me was this feeling that there was something else that I was here to do, or maybe that it wasn't what I was here to do, as much as there was something else I ought to be doing. So at that time, I just kept putting one foot in front of the other, one step at a time, and found myself wanting to leave a job that was not resonating for me, winning and losing tennis matches, bouncing around with different attempts at creating a business of coaching, mostly unsuccessfully, but making progress. From early on, I was, you know, when you hear from early on, I'm not going to say I was 10 years old, here we go. But early on in my life, I was just always looking for approval. Although being a University of Michigan hippie and having long hair and a beard and wearing bell bottoms and being anti-establishment, you'd think I wasn't really that concerned about getting approval. And especially when I told my parents, when they asked me what I was going to do, I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. But I know I'm not going to wear a tie. I'm not going to work in New York City, and I'm not working 9 to 5. But I still was looking for approval. So I was always, it seemed like I was always seeking out external validation. And really, in retrospect, and even at the time, I knew that I was struggling with very low self-esteem. And it was an awful feeling for me, but it did motivate me. I wouldn't really recommend it as like a motivating thing. But in my case, it definitely worked. Because not feeling that I was good enough planted a seed. And that seed was a drive to be better. I just wanted to be better. Who I was clearly wasn't good enough for me. And in looking at my life, in anything that I was doing, I just wanted to be a little better than who I perceived that I was. I wanted to be a better basketball player. I wanted to be a better school teacher, which I was for a couple of years. Maybe not better, but I was a school teacher. I wanted to be a better tennis teacher, a better tennis director, a better father, a better spouse, tennis player, and coach. At that time, I started to delve into people who were successful. And one book that really changed things for me instantly was Stephen Covey's iconic book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I read that first chapter, and I don't know how many of you have read that. How many of you have read that book? It's like, it's just awesome. His first chapter was called Be Proactive, ! It screamed out to me. I had never even heard that word before. It was not a common word at that time. What a concept. Take charge. Go for it. Before that, I was floating through my days just waiting for something to change. And then habit number 7, which he called sharpen the saw, made me realize that I needed to be a full-time sharpener of every part of who I was if I was going to execute or be able to execute being proactive, even when not knowing where I was headed. I leaned in. First of all, I was telling all the people I was giving tennis lessons to about this book. And I was like, you have to read this book. Be proactive. So I went back. I realized I was telling them, but I wasn't really doing the work. So I went back to chapter 1, and I decided, I'm going to work on this till I get it. And I trained in that habit. I don't really remember how long it took, but like I was in the game. I was like, really, just do it. Just do it. I kept doing the reps. And I did this on all 7 habits. I was inspired, I was telling my students because I was inspired to help them get better. Of course, they wanted to learn forehands and backhands. I wanted to teach them how to be better. I was relentless because that's what I wanted. And I thought that's what they ought to want. To lean into the growth mindset. Improving would logically lead to getting better. Developing mastery of whatever skill they or I wanted. I was emphasizing the internal and de-emphasizing the external. Mastery over themselves. Mastery of those other things would follow. Although interestingly, the concept of mastery, as I understand it, is that we try and do something well, we try to master it. But in order to master it, we have to learn how to have mastery over ourselves. So in a lot of ways, we're trained to become masters over ourselves by working on getting good at something. So that's very encouraging, you know, anything you're working on, you can like really try and be really, really a master of it. And the result of that is you may master many things in your life. Ideas started to flow to me from authors, philosophers, and wise people. Watching sports, I saw what all the best were doing to set themselves apart. Jordan, Gretzky, Ali, Chris Evert, Magic, Lendl. I thought Lendl was amazing. That guy was really, really something. He was dialed into the internal. I would tell my students these ideas, and I explained these ideas to them throughout the week. It would start on Monday. The person I taught on Saturday would get the most mature explanation of what I had started talking about on Monday. That person actually was really uncoachable and didn't get the benefit of a lot of this. So I was teaching them, and they were teaching me, all at the same time, how to be better, one step at a time. I just kept focusing on getting better. What will it take? Then I found the word and concept Kaizen. People know Kaizen? How many know the word Kaizen? Okay, the rest of you want to know what it is. It means ongoing incremental improvement. Another great concept for me. It took the pressure off. I only needed to get a little bit better every day. And it became a mantra for me. I could check in with my progress every day. Now, during this stretch of my life, I kept playing tournaments. I started a journal about every match, building awareness of what was working and what wasn't. And just wanting to be better, I'd lean on what worked and delete that wasn't. I would train out the things that were not working, doing the reps, showing some ability, but I was still blocked up with mental obstacles. Fail, fail again, but fail better. But I felt that I was winning because I was improving. The growth mindset started to grow. Winning is growing. Maybe I'll just keep working on growing and winning will follow. Winning, the external will follow. Committed to growth however long it takes. We never really reach our best. We don't know what our best is. And we can always get better. I set the bar high. I set the bar very, very high for myself. To be extraordinary in every part of my life. As a spouse, as a father, as a grandfather, a coach, a player, a friend, son, brother, just person. I just want to be extraordinary, so I've got work to do all the time. I'm not there yet, but I then, I do it over and over again. And a friend of mine once said to me that I had developed an ecosystem for ongoing improvement. I said, what? What? And he said, well, you have an experience, then you write about it. Then you share it with others. Who does that? Then you get feedback. Then you reflect on it. Then you reconcile it. Rinse and repeat. That's what I did, over and over and over again. And this has been my journey all the way to right now. Now, this isn't just the story of how I got here. I mean, that is the story of how I got here. But what I really would like to express now, just in a few more minutes, is I'd like to share some ways of thinking and being that shifted me, that taught me lessons, big lessons that I leaned into and trained into my being, that pulled and pushed me to be a better Bob. New stories that I could write, doing the reps, one step at a time, be better. I hope that there'll be some takeaways for some or all of you so that you too might get on your path to living best stories. So there's about 4 or 5 of them. First one, these are not in order of importance, they can fit in any way you want, but you gotta find a way to love the journey. We've heard it. Everybody knows this story. I gotta love the journey. The journey is like the gift, and the journey is better than the destination. We all hear it. Till things go south. And then all of a sudden people start bailing. Like, yeah, well, but if I could just make a good trade, yeah, the journey would be okay. If I could just win this match, things would be okay. If I could just get a good grade, things would be fine. But everything has ebbs and flows. Our jobs, sometimes we're just killing it. Other times we can't find our way. Our health, up and down. Relationships, unbelievable love, connection, followed by really difficult conversations. Creativity, sometimes it's just flowing, other times it's like a wall. You can't get anywhere. Ebbs and flows. They aren't detours. They're the path. But the act of showing up, of trusting the process, that's what really matters. When we stop fighting the normal ups and downs, accept it, welcome it, we find peace that makes the whole journey, not just the peaks, but every step worthwhile. So, as with a lot of really smart things, they don't have to be complicated. This is a relatively simple idea, but it's a great thing to get to work on. Life gets really good when you can accept the normal ups and downs of the day and life. Second, redefine winning. Winning is great. It's a bummer to lose, especially when only one person gets to win in outcome. But if we focus on the external victory, as I did for a long time, it pulls us out of the present, which is actually where we're playing. And we don't really play that well. We're focused on trying to win. In fact, it creates a lot of stress, pressure, tension. In sports, it's called choking. You don't choke when you're in the present because you're busy playing. I found out that just recently I played a tournament where I was not 100% healthy, but I decided to play it anyhow. I didn't know if I'd be able to play every day, but we had made the plans to go, so we went. And honestly, every point that I played, I didn't know if I'd play another point. And I went through this tournament, and I lost 2 games in 4 matches. It was like one of the most dominating things I've ever done. And it was because I had kind of tripped over the idea that I can't win while I'm playing. I can only play the point. And the winning always happens after. I'm not playing anymore. Now somebody says, oh, you won. So that kind of redefined winning for me very recently again. But there are ways that we can win the internal battle so we always win. Stuff we can control. It dilutes the pressure. I had a really good year a few years ago. I was winning match after match. I hadn't lost a match in a few tournaments. And every time I went out to play, I felt so much pressure because anything but winning was like, I was supposed to win. So I didn't really want to play, actually. I was like sort of avoiding it, but then I would do it, and then I managed to find my way through. I called up a buddy of mine named Jim Parker. He's about 82. Now, I know that sounds really old, but this guy is like, he looks like 55. He's won 180 national championships, the most any senior player has ever won. And I said, Jim, how do you do this? Every time you play, you win. You've won 7 world championships. You know Jimmy, right? Right? So he says to me, well, I haven't been doing a good job at it because I've been losing my hair. But he said, you know what I came to realize? I don't have to win. I just prefer to win. Well, there you go. What a great idea. I can go out there and prefer to win and not feel like I've lost if I haven't won. So that was another type of thing to redefine winning. Being grateful. I am so grateful that I play tennis. I can't believe I'm still competing at this age. And it's such a blessing, and I'm so grateful when I remind myself to be grateful for the fact that I can play and that I've traveled to these tournaments and I'm with all these really cool people who have been very successful at this particular thing and other things in their life. Being grateful just reduces the pressure. I mean, and there's a lot of data now that suggests that being grateful is like incredible for us physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, and that the person who was telling me about this, who's a brilliant scientist, said if people knew what you got out of writing your gratitude 3 or 4 times a week, they'd pay like $1,000 a day for it. It's like, you get so much. So there are a few other things for me. When I'm playing, the fact that I never quit, the fact that I try and be a good winner and a good loser, that I feel the quiet and I'm being the quiet in the storm, all wins. Win at some, win the outer. Winning lasts a lifetime. Growing lasts a lifetime. Okay. Sharpening your tools. This is sort of a model for performance coaching. I'm going to whip through it. We know that to be really extraordinary, we believe, those in my business believe that to be extraordinary, we need to be able to create tons of energy. Not just physical energy, but physical, mental, emotional, spiritual energy. If you don't have those buckets full, it's hard to be extraordinary over an extended period of time. You can be extraordinary for 10 minutes without that, but like to really be at the top. So everything that we do in these energy buckets, which are physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, has an energy consequence. Our energy goes up or it goes down, depending on what we do. Eat right, eat the right foods, eat the right way, your energy goes up. Sleep, exercise, what you drink, when you drink, increases your energy. If you're eating in front of your screen, I hate to tell you, you're probably decreasing energy. Going food, going drinking, not sleeping, doesn't help. Emotionally, if we're having emotions that are hope-filled emotions, emotions like liking, enjoying, love, increases energy. Deficit emotions, frustration, irritation, impatience, intolerance, energy suck. Mentally, when we're focused, our energy goes up. Doing a jigsaw puzzle at 2 in the morning when you walk by the table and spending an hour doing it, because the focus is so deep. Focus increases energy. Multitasking, exhausting. Think about those days that you're trying to do 6 things at once. You don't get things done, and it's exhausting. Spirit energy. This is the big one. Like when you're doing things that are really connected to your ideals, never quit. Love the challenge. Welcoming adversity. You get filled up with like incredible amounts of energy. Things not going well. This sucks. Hanging your head. Going deep into your emotions. Losing sight of what you're really doing something for. You don't have a shot. And just one last thing on this. The famous flu story of Michael Jordan. The guy was so sick for a playoff game that he could barely stand up. He goes to Phil Jackson and he says, "Put me in, coach." And he's like, we've been pumping you through full of fluids. He goes in, he plays 6 minutes, scores 12 points. I don't know the exact details, but I think he scored 38 points in this game and then collapsed. How did he do that? His physical energy was like a 0, but he had the 3 other legs going. His emotion, his focus, his mental, and spirit. All of us can aspire to the flu game. Next. You still with me on this? Am I going too long? I was supposed to go 15 minutes, but I have a few more minutes. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right, okay. Leading into adversity. This has to do with my late wife Carol's passing away. When she was diagnosed with breast cancer, it really rocked me. I lost my balance. I lost my groundedness. And yet I knew there's no time for that. I can't be that way. I gotta find a way. And I asked myself this question. Who do you want to be? Who do you want to be? And I knew who I wanted to be. I kind of wanted to be the way I was in tennis matches at this point, where I was not denied. I never quit. And I had all these other things going for me. And all the training that I had done physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually for tennis, it wasn't for tennis. It was for this. And at that point, I read a book by Eckhart Tolle called A New Life. Jody had told me to read it. A New Earth, I'm sorry, New Earth. Thank you, Jody. the new earth, totally whispered into my ear, acceptance. Now, I don't just say you accept it. Acceptance doesn't mean you have to like it. Acceptance doesn't mean you become passive. Acceptance just frees you up to like the isness of a situation that you can then approach and deal with the strength that you have. But to not accept things, energy suck. Acceptance, non-judgment, detachment. I was learning this in the midst of needing it. Presence. And I found during this few years that I really wanted to be where I was, being there. I wanted to be there. I wanted to take care of her. It's all I wanted to do. And I leaned into adversity, and that was the path. And interestingly, this was the period of the greatest growth in my life, I think. So it was the greatest growth and the saddest moments, like, at the same time. So, leaning into adversity has its own gifts. I have two more. Writing stories. 3 months after she passed away, I started to write. A book was inside me. I'll write about her passing. Nope, I don't want to do that. I'll write about adversity. No, I don't want to do that. Maybe I'll write about turning bad thoughts into better ones. I had been doing that without knowing it with students on the court. I looked through what's happening with them through a different lens. And I would change their story. I would have them look at how much they had improved rather than them saying, I'm not any better. Well, look back there where you were. Look down. And I would be telling them different stories. So writing stories really did help. And just at that time, I wasn't really crazy about my job. There were a lot of things about it that I didn't like. I loved being on a court and playing tennis and actually teaching people, but I didn't know if tennis even mattered. I'm teaching tennis, how much does that really matter? And then I kind of like was thinking about other professions, not that I wanted, but like I thought about writers and artists. They don't have a real job either. Really, I mean, they're just creating. And I thought, wait, I'm not teaching tennis. I'm teaching people how to be, how to posture themselves, how to talk to themselves, and how to frame progress. And I thought, this is a cool job. But that also was the moment that answered the question, what are you really here for? And boy, I ran with it. And I keep running with it. Lastly, going inside. And this has been a progression for me. Going inside was more recent for me. Because, look, one of the things about me is I do like to win. So I'm external. But as I've gotten older, a couple of things happened. One was that I met one of the original teachers of Transcendental Meditation. Dan Cahill introduced me to him. And he just reinvigorated me. He told me what I wasn't getting right about it. I had failed at it when I was 25, so I never did it. I did a little bit here and there, 5 minutes here. Oh, I better meditate. But like, that's not really the practice. And I can say that meditation is probably the best gift I've ever given myself. My whole world I see differently. I'm calm, quiet, accepting, present, clear, at peace with my inner world. I'm still working on it, but like, I like where I am right now, and I want to always be better. So I keep doing the work, and it also helped me distance myself from my inner thoughts that no longer really served me. They were all conditioned thoughts about the past. Like when I became a vegan and thought, well, I don't know, I don't really like vegetables. That was from when I was 10 years old. It's like, I had to try and eat vegetables that I didn't like. They were pretty good. It was good to like not listen to my thoughts. And then I was lucky enough to trip over the word equanimity. When I heard about it, I was like, yep, you're gonna train that in. So I've been working on that. Now, I am not really where I want to be with these yet. I am where I want to be, I'm here. But I want to be better at all these things. But I'm really happy to be moving forward patiently, one step, getting better, Kaizen. And now, in the fourth quarter of my life, I'm focused on growing in even more meaningful ways. Love, compassion, giving to others, service, being there for others who are suffering, deepening my relationships with Joanne, Jody, Amy, and my grandkids, and knowing that I'm no longer my old stories, and not yet my new stories, just always somewhere on the path, just living my best stories. Thank you.